Well, it's been good being here today and meeting all these wonderful gurus that know so much about sustainable agriculture. And it's been interesting, just about a year ago, I heard someone talking about sustainability in the church. And I thought, now that's really interesting there. So we need sustainable churches, right? And so when I was 14 years old, I quit school and went to do construction work. And the foreman of the construction company, he said one day, he said, Elisha, he said, never be a farmer. And this is quite a few years later, and I have completely changed my mind. Farming is one of the most beautiful things. I am a church planter, that's what my calling is, but you know how it is in these countries that we work in, we don't always tell the government officials that we're a missionary, so we tell them, for years I said I was a construction worker because that's what I did. And I tell people I'm going through a midlife career change. I'm becoming a farmer. So, as Steve mentioned, I feel like my calling is to be a church planter. That is my call that I have felt from God for the last 24 years. We've been working in church planting. A businessman once told me, he said, the preachers aren't getting it done. He says, us businessmen are going to do it. Well, the Bible says that God's going to use the church. And so I was really happy with the comment that one of the speakers made about the church being part of this. But it's all connected to our daily lives. So we're going to use, Brother Joel asked me to use this as a case study. In other words, we're going to take some of the expertise and some of the information that's available here, and we're going to apply it to this particular case here. So this is the area that we're working in. Maybe someone could dim the lights. Thank you. This is the town that we lived in for 5 years, and then we now live in the same area, but not exactly in town anymore. So right here, you can see the village, and they have fields there, some terraces and so on. That's the area that most of the village is. And there are also other fields scattered in different areas. Down here are some fields. Over here are a number of fields. So that's a little overview of the area that we're working in. Obviously, this is in the dry season. So let's see if we can get this figured out. Whenever Adam and Eve sinned, God said that one of the effects that's going to take place, one of the punishments God was going to put on the land was thistles and thorns would grow. So here we have the fall in full bloom. And so this is an example of a field in the Tarahumara area there. So this is an example of what we have to work with in our situation. There's a close-up of the same field. This is another typical field. This is their traditional farming methods that they use there. There are some pretty good fields. Some are fairly flat and fairly good soil, and others are not that way. They do have a lot of good points. They work together as a community. A lot of times they work together, and that's a good thing. There's hoeing their cornfield. And this would be a typical cornfield about the middle of the growing season. So we do get about 25 to 30 inches of rain a year. That's our annual rainfall. Most of that comes within about 4 months' time. This is how they haul their harvest home. Some would use donkeys and some on their backs. Here they have, that harvest that you saw them hauling on their backs is now right here drying on the roof. This is the bean stalks, and over here is the corn. So they don't have barns, and so they put it on the roof to keep it from the animals. And this is corn tortillas. This is what the harvest should be turned into. unfortunately, a lot of it gets turned into this. Does anybody know what that is? That's corn beer. And so that's something that we're addressing. Our church members don't do this anymore, but it's difficult to really progress with sustainable agriculture as long as people are doing this. So I did purchase a small farm. I have some big boys, and I need something for them to do. And so this is a picture of my pond and one field. I have several patches of land, but this is the one. And so I'm going to give you a few pictures of our farming project there. So this is planting just before the rains come. So that's how the traditional Tarahumara way is. They plant just before the rains come. And here, I'm standing in the middle there. It's hoed above where I'm standing, and it looks like it needs weeded below there. So, we did grow some crops there. I grew up here in Pennsylvania. My parents were good gardeners, and they didn't really teach me a lot of scientific information, but they certainly showed us how to garden in Pennsylvania. But in the Copper Canyon of Mexico, it's a complete different story. The one person mentioned about all the community animals wanting to eat your crops. In Pennsylvania, you can just grow something and there it is. But in these places, it's not so easy. And so I feel like I've really been on a learning curve, both in my own, on my own farm, and then also trying to hopefully help the Tarahumaras a little bit. So this is not what I would call sustainable agriculture, because this we applied chemical fertilizer to this. And so we did have a lot of relationship building with our family. That was great. This is an example of the Indian corn. Great stuff. I'll give credit to my wife and children. This is my daughter, Michelle. And my wife had a beautiful garden. And then we moved to the farm after this, and she's been working on the garden there. And she's an excellent gardener also. So this is a farming project that we did about 12 years ago. So this picture is about 12 years old. So this was, the owner of this farm here was our first convert in the mountains. And so the trees, these green trees are mango trees. This is his house. And this is a small greenhouse that I helped him to construct. And this is a water tank that he built to collect water from a spring. This is inside the greenhouse. He's starting the small plants there. And this was where he planted his cabbage. And it did pretty well. I don't have pictures of the final product, but it did pretty well. And he actually made money. The project did not continue because he moved away to work. And in fact, the whole church moved away. And so this is one reason I am interested in sustainable agriculture, is because, to put the effort into planting a church and then have them all move away is quite heartbreaking. So that's one reason that I'm really interested in helping these people to provide a living for themselves right there where they are. This is another work project. This is a brother in our church in Pamachi, which is where we started another church. And so this is his house right here. He had something planted in this field, and then this is wheat. I brought him wheat seed, and he planted wheat there. This is another picture of his wheat field, and this is him. And so this did pretty well also. He harvested a nice amount of wheat. I felt like it wasn't very sustainable because the hill is really steep, and when he tills up the field every year, it causes a lot of erosion. So I felt like we needed some different solutions for that. This is him and I. This is his version of a teepee. So this is the field of another brother in the church. The man who owns this field is my translator on Sunday mornings. I preach in Spanish, and he translates to the Tarahumara language. And here again, it's pretty steep, And so tilling it up like this every year does not seem very ideal. But he does raise corn. This was a strawberry project on that same area there, same field basically. And it didn't do very well because the ground was too hard. And so I'm learning along with these people. And this is a chicken project that also did fair, but we were hauling the feed from 8 hours away. And so that didn't seem real sustainable. And it does rain. So there's a nice picture of some of the rainfall, or how it turns green. So now, so at my farm, the elevation is about 7,400 feet. And at the river where the cabbage project was, that was about 2,700 feet. Yeah. So it's about a mile difference in elevation. So at the bottom, we have tropical plants. One person mentioned the moringa. We actually have the one brother raising moringa. It's we're struggling with leafcutter ants and different things, but it is a project that we're working on. We also have coffee we're working on, and a few other things. So we've been chipping away at it, but we need answers.